Well, one species can make a difference, and just a few examples from California, 2 examples from California. Figs. California leads the nation in fig production, is I think second to Turkey worldwide in fig production. Fig production started in California in the late 19th century, and it didn't work for at least 10 years. They tried and tried, and it did not work because the fig growers did not know they needed to bring over from Europe, where figs are native, the tiny fig wasp, the Agionid fig wasp, which is the only known pollinator for certain varieties of figs. You cannot grow these figs without the fig wasp. So it took them 10 years to figure that out. It took them 10 years and a little bit to figure out which of the many species of fig wasps. Each species of ficus, of fig, actually has a different specific pollinator. So one species does make a difference. Here in California as well, biological control of the grape leafhopper, which is a major pest of grapes, was successful only in vineyards that were not well kept, vineyards that had clean lanes between vines had problems with grape leafhopper. And it turns out that the not well tended vineyards had raspberry bushes just growing, blackberry bushes growing untended between the vineyards. And unbeknownst to people until this project was launched, these blackberries were housing or home to another species of leafhopper, completely non-economically important. But it turned out to be important for the parasitic wasp that was introduced to control the grape leafhopper. Grape leafhopper has 1 generation per year. The wasp needs 2 generations. And it had no other host for its 2nd generation, except in the messy vineyards where there were weedy blackberries. So again, one species of no economic importance turned out to be economically important. Why does this matter? Well, we don't know very much about our 950,000 species of insects. It doesn't look like insects are in much trouble compared to other taxa. Only about 553 are described as being threatened. However, we've described various estimates vary, only a tiny, 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 tiny fraction of the total biodiversity that is insects. We haven't even evaluated species as to whether they are threatened or not, compared to the fact that we know just about every bird on the planet and almost every mammal. So we don't even know what's at risk. But of what we've identified as at risk, as ones that have been screened, almost 3/4 of them are in danger. So disproportionately, insects may be at risk. And it's not surprising because they have these incredibly specialized lifestyles. They live on parsnips, for crying out loud. There are insects that live in the nostrils of sea lions. There are insects that live in petroleum pools. Because they are so small and they evolve so rapidly, they use they can survive on amazingly resource deficient seeming non-foods, dung, for example. Practically nothing eats dung, which is, of course, what someone else couldn't digest, except for insects. So amazingly specialized lifestyles. It's not surprising that those few resources the individual species identify as necessary are threatened, and they're threatened as well. So another problem that the critically endangered mammals are a little easier to protect. They have common names. The 61% of critically endangered species you have to call by their Latin names, which does not help their cause. And some of them who do have common names have really lousy common names. Pygmy hog sucking louse is endangered. It lives only on the pygmy hog, and it is a sucking louse. But I cannot see signs that say, save the pygmy hog sucking louse. Some endangered insects have actually a lot of common names. This is the Lord Howe Island phasmid that actually was thought to have gone extinct, but was rediscovered, much to the delight of the residents of Australia and New Zealand. So why is this relevant? Well, in California, more than most places, insects at risk have a PR problem. And this is ripped from the headlines here. Just April 7th, elderberry longhorn beetles made the news. They are apparently holding up a jail in San Andreas, California, because they feed on elderberries, only elderberries, and The jail expansion can't go forward until the elderberries that these beetles depend on are replanted, and it may cost $12,000. And this is, I think, a $59 million jail project. And you get comments like, this is a damn beetle, right? Yes, it's a damn beetle. And this is a damn fly. The Delhi Sounds flower-loving fly has held up major construction project in Colton, California. It lives in the Delhi Sands. It's a unique sandy habitat, sand dune-like habitat, unlike anything else anywhere. And it has a unique indigenous fauna. This is a fly. It's a flower-loving fly. It is a pollinator. Very little is known about it because it's endangered. And again, ripped from the headlines, this is March 21st. Joe Baca, congressman, represents Colton and really hates this fly. Hates it so much that he has proposed an amendment. This is the fly. Ironically, it's one of the largest flies in North America. So even though it's small, it's large for fly. He has proposed an amendment to the Endangered Species Act, which has, aside from having one of the worst, most contorted acronyms I've ever heard, it is the Discredit Eternal Listing Inequality of Species Takings Act. It's not even grammatical, but it's called the Delist Act. And it requires a review of a species by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service after it's been listed as endangered for 15 years. The review, my italics, the review must show substantial increase of the population of the species in order to warrant a continued listing as endangered. Does this make any sense to anybody? It has to increase in order to remain on the list as endangered, and if it decreases, it's no longer endangered? Is that because it's hopeless? I understand there are major economic pressures and enormous constraints, but how does this work in practice? And it is inspired by an insect, and it seems like a baby and bathwater kind of situation where there may be conflicts, but really there must be a better way of dealing with these conflicts than assuming that lack of knowledge is a sound basis for making a decision about whether a species has a chance to remain on planet Earth or not. Generally, scientific decisions based on as much information as possible are much better than those based on a lack of information, or even worse, a lack of study. So I don't know if anybody lives in Joe Baca's district here, but if it just, to me, a sad situation that the incredible adaptability and the amazing information we can learn from any individual species is regarded as pretty much expendable. Last time I checked, no species, not even an insect species, comes with a sunset clause. Thank you.